Feeling chilled this morning despite a warm-up we experienced this week? Chef Ryan Nolan joins us live from Mahoney's Restaurant and Bar in Oshkosh with another great hearty meal idea. Good morning, Ryan.
Morning, how are you?
I'm doing great. You know, last hour we made chili, and now we are going to be making something else. What do you got?
We're going to be making some Guinness beef stew. We got St. Patrick's Day coming up in less than a month. And, you know, I remember it was like 2 years ago or so, St. Patrick's Day, it was like 75 or 80 degrees. So let's hope that that happens this year. But if not, and if it's cool and wet, kind of like it's going to be tomorrow, Guinness beef stew is going to be the perfect thing for St. Patrick's Day. It's the perfect thing for any day, quite frankly. And being in Wisconsin, why not focus a whole stew around beer? It's just great. So to get started, we've got another sauce pot that we've got a little bit of olive oil hot in, and we've got about a cup of diced carrots, and we've got some celery, and then about 2 cups of diced onion, and some quartered mushrooms. So we're going to get those started, and we can get them all out of there. Now, normally, I'd also be adding about a cup or 1 large potato diced to this, but right before we started, I was peeling the potato, never got to finish it. So we're going to imagine that we've got some great diced potato that we put in there too. We're going to give that a little stir. And what you would do while this is cooking, and we're just going to cook it until our vegetables start to soften. We would also add our garlic. Is we're going to have 1.5 pounds of cubed beef, which I actually took and started browning off already just to save some time. And you could use sirloin, you could use a chuck roast, you could use a inside round, whatever you found that you wanted to use for your diced beef, or even some tenderloin tips if you really wanted to go extravagant. So we just salt and peppered them, browned them off a little bit, and then we deglazed it with a little bit of our Guinness beer to try and get up all the flavor off the bottom of that pan. So once our vegetables would be tender, we would go ahead and add our cubed beef to it and give that a good stir. And then just to kind of enhance the beef flavor a little bit, we're going to add just a little bit of beef base, the stuff you would buy and mix with some water. We're just going to add it straight in there because we're going to have all the liquid from our Guinness that we're going to add. Now, if you didn't want to get Guinness, or if you wanted to keep local, I've also made this soup with Leinenkugel's Creamy Dark, which is just fantastic to use in here as well. So to this, we're going to add about 5 cups or so of some Guinness Draft, those wonderful cans you can buy, just till about the point that we cover up our vegetables. And what we would do is we would bring this to a boil and then turn it down to a simmer and just let it slow cook until our vegetables got tender, our beef got tender. And what's going to happen is that beef and the beer are just going to make this awesome flavor together. And while that's cooking, we want to add some herbs and seasoning. So we have 1 bay leaf, which you want to make sure you take out at the end of your cooking time. And speaking of time, a little bit of time. So we would let that simmer and stew and come up to a boil, turn it down. But then we need to thicken it up a little bit. So what we've also made is just a little bit of a loose roux. So we have about 2/3 cup of drawn butter and about 2/3 cup of flour. So we would add that to our hot simmering liquid and stir it in there and let it come back up to a boil again and then turn it down. Because we want to, once we have the roux in there, we want to simmer it, but we don't want to burn the flour in there, but we kind of want to cook that floury taste out. So once that's all done, you're going to find that your stew is a little bit thick. So what we've done is we've saved an extra cup of Guinness that we could use to readjust how thick our soup is and reintroduce that wonderful flavor that may have dissipated once we were cooking. At the end, we're going to season it up with some salt and pepper. And then way at the end, we're going to finish it up with some fresh tomatoes just to add some acidity and brightness to the stew as well. And then when all's said and done, we've got a wonderful beef Guinness stew, perfect for St. Patrick's Day or any day that you're looking to warm up on some cold weather.
Yeah, Ryan, that looks great. And, you know, in the 7 o'clock hour, you actually made that chili with just portobello mushrooms. So you have 1 recipe for a vegetarian in your life, another one for a meat lover in your life.
Yeah, and the great thing about this, make a big pot of it and then share it with your neighbors. It's such a great aspect of sharing food. So somebody makes the chili, the next person makes the Guinness beef stew, and then you just swap. And it's just a great way to share with your friends and family.
It really is. Ryan, thank you so much for being with us this morning.